Hey, welcome to our daily edition of Friend of God. We're taking this directly from our new book called Friend of God, Letting Jesus Say Who You Really Are, because we really believe that when you learn how Jesus defines you, it changes how you define you. You are not the sum of your mistakes and victories. You are who Jesus says you are. You are the one He loves. Thus, you are a friend of God. And in this incredible journey through the writings of John, we see John telling us over and over again, this is what it looks like to be loved by Jesus. And so through 40 days, we're going to take a look at what Jesus is showing to John, and thus John is showing to us. That John comes to the conclusion that I am the one that Jesus loves, and thus we can come to that same conclusion. So, every day, we're going to take one of these chapters and give you just a very quick thing to think about and pray about for that day. And so here is today's episode. Day 10, I'm the one He cries with. Hope you got a chance to read this chapter of the book or listen to it on Audible. Let's take a few moments and talk about the shortest verse in the Bible. That was so fun as a kid learning that. What's the shortest verse in the Bible? Well, it's just so happens to be Jesus wept. Man, that was great to walk around and say you'd memorized some of the Bible. The fascinating thing about Jesus weeping is not so much that he does it. I mean, we expect Him to have emotions. The fascinating thing to me is, why does He do it? I mean, He knows He's going to heal Lazarus. He knows that He'll bring Lazarus back from the dead. Very soon, the sisters of Lazarus will not be weeping, and they'll be rejoicing, and they'll not be mad at Jesus anymore. Very soon, Jesus will not be sad at the loss of his friend, because he'll see his friend again. In fact, the only one that'll be upset about it is Lazarus, because he was doing pretty good in heaven. Now suddenly he's back to earth. Well, Jesus is going to heal Lazarus, but before He does, He weeps. And this is one of the things we talked about in the chapter, is why does Jesus do this? Because Jesus knows the pain that we all experience. Jesus is able to stand at a funeral and understand the two emotions that are going on, sadness and anger. Some people are angry with God that He would allow someone to die. Some people are sad and wondering how they can be comforted. Jesus feels all of this. And Jesus sees us in our worst moments, and Jesus Himself has that same kind of agony and pain. Jesus is weeping. I love this picture of Jesus. In fact, for years, I have been fascinated with the human side of Jesus. We're so consumed with the God side of Jesus and His powers and abilities and the things that He does, the theological side of what happens in His miracles and on the cross. But the human side of Jesus gives us another perspective to Him that most of the time we overlook. Jesus weeping at a funeral. So let me ask you this. When do you feel Jesus has wept for you? Maybe at the loss of a child, maybe at the loss of a marriage, maybe when you're wrecked by your own sin and shame, and He is brokenhearted for what it is we have to endure with the consequences of our sin and shame. Or maybe it's at a funeral. Maybe it's at knowing your own death is approaching, or a bad diagnosis from a doctor. Have you recognized that Jesus has wept with you? So let's make that our prayer for today. Jesus, thank you for weeping with me. Well, I hope that was helpful for you today. Take that with you throughout the remainder of your day. We'll be back tomorrow with another daily edition. Make sure you check us out on YouTube and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back tomorrow with another daily edition of Friend of God.